Today we're covering our Solo Stove Yukon review. This is the Solo Stove that we chose. We chose to get the Yukon. And so we thought we'd share with you what we liked, what we didn't like, and the overall experience of the Yukon. So as you might tell from our website, we love fire pits, and we actually have 3 in the backyard. No, we're not kidding. But as much as we love watching the fire flames on a cool night, we both have gotten a little bit more sensitive to the smoke that a fire pit puts out. So because of this, we were super excited when we first heard about the possibility of a smokeless fire pit. And then the more that we read about how Solo Stove worked, the more we wanted one. So we bought the Yukon Ultimate Bundle on a Black Friday. So let's dive in. All right, so this is the Solo Stove Yukon. It is their largest one. And if you notice right here, it's at 34.79 pounds. The diameter is 26.85 inches. The height is 17.64 inches. And it's made out of stainless steel 430 and 304. And the fuel type is for logs. And we also got this. The Yukon package comes with the stand, the shield, and the shelter. So we also got the accessory pack that allows you to poke and prod the sticks as well as moving the logs around.
And marshmallows.
And marshmallows. Okay. The ring that goes over it. I'll show you what it all looks like set up. That is the shield that goes over it.
And you get the cover.
And then inside you have the cover. What are those?
I don't know.
You have little squiggly things. You've got a cover that comes with it. This comes with the whole package that we got.
How to use your pit.
You have a great tutorial on how to use your pit and how to store it and care for it. So this is the stand. And this is so you can put it on sensitive areas. So out of the box, the first hiccup we had, it had nothing to do with Solo Stove, but it was the fact that it was dented. The Yukon is their largest version, and so it's much bigger, and so it's probably a little bit easier for it to dent. It was a pretty big dent, and it really couldn't be explained because the packaging wasn't damaged. But when we called customer service and showed them the pictures, they said no problem. They would send a new one and gave us a shipping label to send the old one back. What was really cool was we never had to pay a dime for the shipping or anything. And then the new one was even delivered before we even sent the old one back. For that alone, the Solo Stove got big thumbs up from us before we even had a chance to use it. For the ring, you simply just want to put the ring down, and this is the bottom of it, so there's not any real groove or anything. You just want to put the stand on top of the ring, and it'll sit nicely on top of the stand. And then this is called the nested flame ring that just goes right on top of the Solo Stove, and that just helps keep everything in. And it fits inside, snug inside of the top ring of the Solo Stove. You have the shield that once the fire is going, you can put the shield on top so that there's no sparks flying out, and it really keeps your fire nice and secure. Then the last thing we have is the cover that goes over the whole thing when you're not using it. It's a good idea to keep it covered. Great little shelter.
Has these to weight it down.
Put little stakes in to weight it down so it doesn't just fly away. And you can Velcro the stakes in, so these little guys will just go. These little guys just go in to keep everything nice and taut. As I said before, the Yukon is the largest Solo Stove fire pit. We wanted a larger version because of our backyard setting, and we wanted to be able to use it on our ground level deck. You'll want to have the stand if you plan on using it on grass or if you want to put it on a deck. It's one of the reasons why we got the entire bundle. The shield is also necessary for using the fire pit on a deck since it helps keep sparks contained. And then one big last accessory was the cover. So they call it the shelter. We live in Florida and we wanted to keep it clean even in our very humid, wet weather. And so we wanted to have a cover. But we've been pleasantly surprised with how good the fire pit tools have also been, moving logs around and having it the right spot within the fire pit. So one of the questions that we have, and one of the questions that we see from a lot of people is it really smokeless? Well, we are happy to report that yes, it's smokeless. There are some caveats to the smokeless part, but that has nothing to do with the fire pit, and we'll get into that in just a second. But we watched the video from Solo Stove on their recommended way to stack the firewood when starting a fire in the Yukon. They used 3 small fire starters with kindling around the square, and whenever the firewood stacked on top of all of that. So when it was time for us to do it, we started a Solo Stove and it was full of black smoke, so we were kind of curious about what was going on. But the problem wasn't with the Solo Stove, but you do have to be careful about what type of firewood you're using. What we realized was that our fire starters were full of fire accelerant, so this was actually what was causing the black smoke. Once the fire starters burned off, smoke went away tremendously since the wood we're using is really dry. So that brings us to the second caveat about it being smokeless. If you're using wet wood, or if you're using a softwood like say pine, then your Solo Stove is going to smoke, but that's not because of the Solo Stove, it's because of the product or the firewood that you're using. And that's why we always recommend using kiln dried wood or a hardwood in your fire pit for the best experience. The Solo Stove design itself makes for a very efficient burn, which is why there isn't much smoke coming from the fire pit itself. And then we've been able to sit for hours next to our fire pit without any issues and without smelling like smoke afterwards. And then the cool thing was that everything at the bottom, all that's left is ash really, rather than any kind of chunks of wood. And that's because of just how hot it gets inside the Solo Stove and because of how it's designed. We were also really pleased with the Solo Stove heat output. So have you ever sat around a fire pit and you couldn't really get much heat unless you got really, really close? That was not the case with the Solo Stove. We actually had to move our chairs back a little so it wasn't right near the fire pit. Now granted, we do live in Florida, so we're not testing the Solo Stove when it's snowing or in blizzard conditions, but when we have used it, it has kept us nice and toasty and warm. And then while we're talking about the Solo Stove review, we do realize that they have changed the design recently. They added a removable ash pan. So all of the ashes in ours, we have to turn it over and empty it out. The cool thing is if you get a new Solo Stove, you have a removable ash pan to remove any of the excess ash. We absolutely love our Solo Stove, and we actually use it more than our built-in paver fire pit area, because with the new changes, the Solo Stove is well worth the price, and we can't wait to test out the new cast iron grill top and hub as well. If you're looking to buy one and you want to check out the links in the description below, we'll have some links there, as well as check out this video on how we actually did build our built-in paver fire pit if you're looking to set something up. The cool thing about it is you can set something like this up and put your Solo Stove right in it, which is one of the next things that we plan on doing. And thanks for watching.